last 4 or 5 trainings. You're not pushing yourself.
Yeah.
You're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, that's it.
Interesting. And it never occurred to me that I wasn't pushing my limits.
People, if they don't,
So you guys are on and it's 8:30, so.
Oh, sweet. I can't see anybody else, but that's okay.
we probably won't.
No, so we're ready to go. Just double check with Andrew, make sure we're good.
Yep, you're all good.
Okay, well, good morning. This is something brand new. Abe, I just thank you for coming. So
I have studio envy.
this place is amazing.
I have Andrew envy. You guys have all the cool toys.
We do have the cool toys.
Andrew's not a toy. I get it.
No, he's good.
He's a high performance machine.
So if you weren't at the awards ceremony last night, I got a little bit of a surprise, and Abe came out from Utah to surprise us at the awards, and it was an amazing evening. So I talked him into coming in this morning, and we want to talk about failure. So I'm gonna let you had a little story you wanted to lead us in with.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, we were talking right before we went live about, I said, I have so many stories about failing. Where do I start? But I have one that is a little unique to me. So I've been on 2 of your morning mindset calls.
Yeah.
One last week.
Correct.
I wonder who out there is like, this guy, can't we? We must be a low budget. Must be on a low budget. Okay, so I don't remember if I've mentioned this, but I've been a rock climber all my adult life. And especially in Yosemite Valley, California. Now, Yosemite is home to the largest unbroken cliff on the North American continent. When God had completed all of his work, the last thing he did was made El Capitan as the culmination of his creation abilities. It is the most beautiful chunk of stone in the world, I think. And it is the mecca for American rock climbing. And when I was, let's see, in 1992, or 93, when I started climbing, I set my sights on El Cap. Now, it's 3 times, if you were to stack the Empire State Building on top of itself, that's how high it is.
3 times?
3 times.
Wow. Okay.
So most parties take 3 to 5 days.
3 to 5 days to climb the whole face.
Yes.
Okay.
So you pull up what's called the portaledge and you do all this. Well, without taking you too deep into the story, I went and tried it, failed. Let's say I probably would have been like, this would have been maybe 10 years ago. I went and tried, failed. Meaning I didn't make it to the top. I came down about a third of the way up. And I was so unsettled. I knew I had to go do it. So I asked a friend of mine who had done it, hey, will you climb El Cap with me? And he said, I will if we do it in 1 day. Now, the difference here, Tony, is you're leaving all the security behind.
Okay.
You're going to go really light. If you run out of water, you're just out of water. If you're out of, you run out of food. But the benefit of that is you can move faster, and so,
Okay.
And when we say a day, we're not talking about daylight hours. We're talking about 24 hours.
Okay.
Well, I reached out, I don't do anything like this without a coach, nothing. And I thought, let's start with the best in the world. So I reached out to a guy named Hans Florine, who holds all the records on El Cap. Hans is a dear friend of mine now. We are quite close. I climbed it with him the first time. So I climbed with the guy who holds the speed record and the ascent record.
Oof.
He and another gentleman named Alex Honnold did this in 2 hours and 19 minutes.
Alex Honnold, he's free solo.
Yeah, that's free solo.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
I've seen that. That's unnerving,
Yeah.
but amazing.
I know Alex. Alex doesn't know me, but we've had some good conversations. And so we do that. I do that with Hans, and there was another guy named David. And so David and I went back about 3 months later to do it without the Oracle, the legend, just David and I.
Okay.
We split it up into 2 halves. I did the first half, or he did the first half. I did the second half. So when he hands me our rack of gear, it is just getting dark and it's lightly snowing. He did an amazing job. But I'm going to climb the most technical part of this climb through the night. And it was so heady. I got a headlight and I'm just, and it's just this black abyss, just this opening void behind me. And I had
When you're halfway up, how many feet up are you at that point?
well, the halfway point is what's considered the halfway point is actually at about 2,000 feet.
Okay,
Because even though it's not the literal halfway point, it is the break between two types of climbing.
Okay.
You know, and so this is without, I won't get too technical. I climb all night long. I have music in my pocket to keep me from being too anxious. I'm just
Okay.
playing Ben Rector in my pocket because I'm an amazing rock climber and I'm a nerdy dad of 4 who wears dress socks with his running shoes while he cleans the house. So I have no, I have no pride. And I got to the top and the sun had come out and I checked my watch and we had missed it.
didn't make it in 24 hours.
We didn't. We made it in just over 27. And I was so bummed. We were exhausted. And we laid on the granite, took a nap at the top, and then rappelled down. Funny enough, my wife had called Yosemite Search and Rescue because she couldn't get a hold of me. And they were spotting for us in a telescope. And I'm like, who are you guys looking for? 2 climbers. What do they look like? One's got a red jacket and a black hoodie. This red jacket and that black hoodie. And so Hans had left me a message. Now, this is the guy that when I was starting climbing, this guy was on the cover of Rock and Ice magazine. He's won the World Cup, which is now an Olympic event. Like, this is an elite athlete. We're now close friends, but it's kind of like Gary Keller to me.
Okay.
And so he's like, hey, call me the second you get down. I want to know how it goes. So I call him and I say, he's like, how'd it go? We didn't do it. Total failure. This is how I was feeling. And it's just silence on the line. And then he says, and this I'll never forget, 1% of 1% of, and it was kind of, I want to try and recreate it because he was kind of subdued about it. 1% of 1% of the world's climbing population will ever be able to say that they climbed El Capitan in one continuous push.
Wow.
So I want you to notice this. I have just done something that a year earlier, I didn't even think I was capable of.
Okay.
This has put me in some rarefied air. I have achieved something tremendous, but because it didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, I'm viewing it as a failure.
Okay.
Like, I'm actually down about it.
Sure.
And yet I've done this incredible thing at night, no less. And Hans helped reframe me.
Okay.
And helped kind of get me back into a proper mindset of did not fail. In fact, I've gone back since, and I've done it in 8 hours and 15 minutes.
Ooh. From 27 to 8 hours.
Yeah. Proper training and everything. But here's the point. This is what I want to get to. Failure is not what most of us would define it to be. And this is really what we want to talk about. We want to talk about beautiful, productive failure. So I want to give a definition. Can I give a definition?
Please.
And I want you to write this down, everybody. Here is the definition of failure that I want you to adopt today and have for the rest of your life. Failure is no more. It is simply an outcome other than the one you were thinking would come. That was terrible. Let me try it again. Failure is any outcome that is different than what you planned on. That's it. Any outcome that is different than what you planned on. And we hear Gary say all the time, we do not fail our way, or we don't succeed our way to success. What do?
Fail our way to success.
We fail our way.
Yeah.
I should be a lot more successful. No failure. So here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
I've identified 7 types of failure. And we're going to share those and a little formula. Now let's introduce this formula first. I think in terms of models.
Okay.
I call them cheat codes. Gary's really sophisticated. I'm going to build a model, and me, I need a rhyme. I need something like that. And so when it comes to failure, and by the way, when we're talking about failure here, we're talking about the things in life and in business that don't go our way.
Okay.
We're not talking about the person who's got a terminal illness that's battling that.
Right.
And so I want to draw that distinction because what I talk about here are for those things that we think are really, really big, but really aren't
Okay.
in comparison. Does that make sense? So
Yep.
just my disclaimer. Okay, so here's the model. When we experience a failure, which is what? Any outcome
Any outcome
that
correct, that you did not expect.
that's it. Any outcome other than what you planned on.
Yeah.
We're gonna do these 4 things. First is we're gonna name it, and you and I will go through in just a moment, the 7 types of failure. We'll define them, and then we'll give evidence, evidence markers of that you may be in this kind of failure. So we're gonna name it. It's important that we first demystify it.
Okay.
That we take this thing that seems so big, like everything is bad. You know, we experience some failure, some shortcoming, a closing falls out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is an outcome we weren't planning on.
Correct.
And it cancels last minute. And we say this is the worst thing ever. Tony,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, is that the worst thing ever?
It might feel like it at the time, but no, it's not.
Based on your life experience over the last number of years,
Nope.
is a canceled closing the worst thing ever?
Nope, absolutely.
Which would you choose? A canceled closing or throat cancer?
Yeah, I'll take the cancel closing.
Perspective is really important, and we have to name the kind of failure or it will remain bigger than it actually is.
Okay.
Number 2 is tame it. So we're gonna tame the failure, meaning we're going to ensure that we understand what it is, and more importantly, what it isn't.
Okay. Got
Number
it.
3, we're gonna frame it, and frame it is all about the steps, the path forward. What are we gonna do to move forward? And then the last, we're gonna do it again. We're gonna fail again fast. We're gonna accelerate our growth. We're gonna insert productive, predictable failure into our lives, into our plans, so that we can create an outcome other than what, we can go and test it, mess it up, adjust. We're just gonna keep improving.
It sounds counterintuitive. Fail again. Why would I want to fail again?
It's the only path.
Yeah.
It's the only path forward. It really is. So what's funny is if we don't embrace that, if that doesn't become a mantra for us, if we don't really lean into that, then you were talking about skiing.
Yeah.
And your coach. Will you share that? That's very applicable to this.
Oh, so we were talking about when I was a young kid, ski racing was my jam. That's what I loved to do. And I was training, and the University of New Mexico coach who was hanging around, George Brooks, has been there forever. He pulled me aside and said, "Hey," he goes, "I've been watching you train. I haven't seen you fall." I said, "No, I haven't fallen in, I don't know, quite a while." And he said, "You're not trying hard enough." And I went, "What?" He goes, "If you're not
Good
failing,
coach.
if you're not falling, you're not pushing yourself to the limits, and you're never going to be at the top of your game."
Yeah, to him, if you're not falling, you're falling short.
Correct.
You're holding yourself short.
Exactly.
Right. So we're gonna go through these 7. Now, we're gonna do this at a speed that's gonna cause those who want to take notes to get a nosebleed.
Okay.
I will share this PDF with Tony. Have no fear. The design work is exquisite. It's not, I did it. It's a Google sheet, but no big deal, right? Because
Yep.
we'll just share what it says is important. So let's just go through these really quick. The
Please.
very first is failure of action. And let's not read the quotes. Failure of action. Here are the 7. Failure of action, failure of execution, failure of vision, failure of adaptation, failure of persistence, failure of integrity, and failure of communication.
Okay.
Now, when you come up with things like this, I got to say this. I've not searched bibliographically. And I feel like there's so much content in the world. So I just want to give a disclaimer because, well, I think I've assembled this. I can't tell these days what I've read or what I'm certain this is an
Where it came
amalgamation
from. Yeah.
of what I've seen. And I want to put that disclaimer out there because you know what is unacceptable?
What's that?
Taking credit for someone else's work. And
Fair
so I cannot in good faith say that I authored this out of thin air of the universe. Just my own disclaimer.
Fair enough.
Yep, but I'll be searching. So if anyone, sees this, everything that I come up with, I feel like I've read that or I've seen that. So I kind of live paranoid when it comes to content. So failure of action. This type of failure occurs when one doesn't take action due to fear, doubt, or procrastination.
Mhm.
And here's the evidence that you might be experiencing this type of failure. procrastination, missed opportunities, unfulfilled goals or ambitions, feelings of regret, or not taking action. None of us have experienced that.
No, never.
Will you do this one?
Sure, absolutely. So failure of execution. This refers to failures resulting from poor planning, lack of effort, or insufficient follow-through. Evidence: incomplete projects, low quality work due to lack of effort, missed deadlines, dissatisfaction with outcomes despite initial planning.
Yeah, I want to point something out. These things all sound really bad, don't they? Incomplete projects. What is a failure per our definition? Those of us that embrace it, that are gonna drain the marrow out of life. What's our definition of failure?
It's an outcome that we didn't expect.
That's it.
That's all.
So when we're sharing this, you know, there are gonna be one of these is gonna hit everybody here. Incomplete projects. Do you know what an incomplete project is? It's a project that isn't done.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what it is.
I have a lot of those.
Yeah, let's not make it bigger than it is. It's just important that we're able to call a duck a duck.
Absolutely.
Okay, failure of vision. This occurs when the goals or strategies are unclear. Evidence of this is setting unattainable goals. That said unrealistic, and I changed it because that's a limiting word. Setting unattainable goals or expectations, feeling directionless or lacking purpose, constantly changing objectives without clear progress. So a person who's having this kind of failure, a failure of vision, if you are a person that is feeling directionless or lacking purpose, you're going to feel like you're only failing everywhere, but you're not. You lack a vision. And that is very different than I just can't work, or I can't pay attention, or I just can't get motivated. Okay.
Love that. Failure of adaptation. This refers to when one fails to adjust strategies or approaches in response to changing circumstances. Kind of like the market we're in now. Maybe. Evidence: resistance to change. I've always done things the way I've always done things. Repeated failures in similar situations due to failure to adjust strategies. Feeling overwhelmed or unable to cope with unexpected challenges. Has anybody ever felt that way in this call?
No one here.
Nobody ever.
Others. This is how they feel at Coldwell Banker. So,
True.
but you know, that feeling overwhelmed or unable to cope with unexpected challenges, you know, I think that comes with our business because
it does.
we're constantly increasing our capacity. You know, so you think about what was the name of our rookie of the year?
Samantha.
She's amazing.
She's amazing.
So Samantha, how many did she do last year?
Oh God, I'm not sure.
3,000.
Yeah, I don't. She
Very impressive.
did a
So,
lot of business.
Yeah, she did a lot of business. I mean, this is no small markets in it. She did a lot of business. But she has not even touched what she will do in 3 years.
Absolutely not.
And so,
I agree.
so we have a tendency to look back. I mean, all of us have a moment in our lives that we can look back and see a time that we weren't good at things that we're good at now. I'll give you an example. Eating solid food.
Okay.
Driving. Some of us still aren't. Right?
Yeah,
But driving,
true.
you know, there was a time in all of our lives we couldn't read.
Yeah.
And so we're capable of learning and expanding, but we have a tendency to judge ourselves on where we think we should be in 5 years. We judge ourselves as if we should be there now,
Right.
instead of being able to see how far we've come. Okay, failure, is this me?
Yes.
Failure of persistence. So this happens when one gives up too soon in the face of challenges or setbacks. And the evidence you might be having a failure of persistence is giving up on goals or projects at the first sign of difficulty, abandoning pursuits due to setbacks or criticism, feeling demotivated, or lacking caffeine. No,
That's what it says.
lacking resilience in the face of adversity. All right, we got just 2 more.
Okay. Failure of integrity.
Mm.
Oof, this is going to be interesting. This occurs when actions or decisions compromise ethic, principles, or values. Evidence: guilt or shame over dishonest actions or decisions, strained relationships due to breaches of trust, inner conflict between personal values and behaviors. Wow. Okay.
All right. And the final one is failure of communication. Now you're saying, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's so intense. I just want you to think about this. What if you're not making things up? What if you're not lying? What if in our relationship, not ours, in our relationship. Me and my wife, my beautiful wife, Teresa, I romanticize everything.
Okay.
And she says, which sounds very judgmental to me, she says, you romanticize the past and change the stories. My stories are so great about our past. You ever notice the older you get, the better you were?
Absolutely.
And so what if it's not being dishonest? What if it's just enthusiastically blurring the lines? You know,
Fair.
what if it's things like I did about 100 homes when really it was 56. So here's a person who's not lying. They're just playing fast and loose with the facts. And so again, I want to point to that these don't have to be things that we are choosing to do dishonestly. That's not the case
Right.
often.
Okay.
And if it is, we got an issue,
We got an issue.
right?
Agreed.
But notice that the evidence is you're feeling guilty about it.
Yeah.
Guilt or shame over things. Now, if you are being overtly dishonest, yeah, you're going to struggle a lot.
100%.
And in order to move forward with that, we're gonna have to square with that. Okay, here's the last one. Certainly not the least. Failure of communication. I have a quote here from George Bernard Shaw, which I love. He says, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
Ooh.
And we say things
that.
like, I told you that. Don't you
Yeah.
remember I told you?
I may not have had that conversation with my wife recently.
You resemble that remark?
Absolutely.
There is what gets said, and there is what gets heard,
Mm,
and they're very different.
Yep.
And if you want the easiest little example of this, here's an easy example of this.
Okay.
If I text you in all caps,
You're shouting at me.
are you coming? All caps.
Which I determine is where the hell are you?
Yeah. But what if I'm doing voice to text while I'm driving and it just happens to do all caps? I have a friend, Terry. This happens to Terry all the time. So all he's saying is, are you coming? Is just calmly asking. But what it looks like is, are you ever gonna make it? And so there's this idea that we think communication is perfect is often the problem with that is we are saying as the one sending the communication, well, this is what I said, and this is what I meant, and you should have got that. But really what we should be finding out is, what did you hear? Here's what I said, but what did you hear?
Yes.
So this type of failure arises from misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and ineffective communication channels. Think big teams. And here's the evidence that you might be experiencing a failure of communication. Misunderstandings or conflicts in relationships, unclear instructions leading to mistakes or inefficiencies, feeling unheard or misunderstood, despite efforts to express one's self. Okay, so let's kind of bring this around, shall we?
Sure.
Name it, tame it, frame it, fail again fast. So can I share a personal story?
Please.
We good, Andrew?
Oh, yeah.
Andrew's really good.
He's very good.
So I don't remember if I shared. Did I share about the market crash on one of?
I don't think so.
Okay. If I did, just pretend I didn't.
Exactly.
So back in 2008, I was the proud owner of a new construction company.
Yep.
We did really well. We bought land, we subdivided land, we built homes. It was this season of printing money.
Yes.
And what happened?
It all went away.
I was driving to school and all the wheels came off the bus. One of the hardest periods of my life. It's actually where I found coaching. Tony DeCello was my coach for 6 years of that.
Really?
Yeah, he saw me through some very dark times coming through that.
Wow.
So if you go back to that period of time,
Yeah.
You know, I had a great business. We do about 25 homes a year. I had a wonderful partner. I mean, we were really establishing a big future. And in a day, it was gone. And I am suddenly now trying to service that debt and just figure out what was going on. Well, you've heard Teresa sing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That beautiful woman can sing the birds out of the sky.
Unbelievable.
Yep. I give some context here. Here's how talented she is. She opened for Martina McBride about 7 years ago in the Anaheim Dome. She's sang backup for Jody Messina. She's opened for Trace Atkins and Nitty Gritty Dirt Band and Air Supply, believe it or not,
Wow.
last year. Those guys, they're still around.
I didn't know that.
It's so fun. Anyway, another story. She's really talented. And so part of the benefit we get as a family due to her talent is Sun Valley Ski Resort.
Yep.
We've spent every Christmas there for the last 21 years.
Okay.
They hired her and a group she's a part of to come up and sing through the Christmas season. They give us season passes, put us up in their nicest accommodations. We have
Nice.
meals at all the lodges, and then we get to see the most important person in our life do the thing she was born to do on earth. And it's just the best time ever. Well, in that year, I had not told her. I felt like I could fix it. I felt like I was holding it up. I was trying to fix it. And the truth was, I couldn't fix it.
Okay.
So we got a babysitter one day. Teresa went shopping with her friends. She's not a shopper, but she just went to hang with her friends. I would like her to buy herself something, but she never does. And I was gonna go skiing with my buddies, and I did not.
Okay.
I went and sat by the fireplace and did everything in my power to extend credit lines so that we could make our mortgage payment and somehow service all of this debt and keep us afloat. And it was crushing me, Tony. And I felt you know, when you have something important to tell someone important to you,
Yep.
and you don't in the moment, and then it seems too big later.
Yep.
And so when you're going through something like this, mentally, you're not thinking rationally.
Nope.
And I wasn't. I had gone to this place of, she will not want me anymore. And I'll lose my family. This is where I was. This is the kind of weight that I'm carrying. So she comes home, or she comes back to the inn, and she sees me. And she says, "What are you doing here? I thought you were going skiing." And it just crashed on me, like the weight of it all. And I said, I have to tell you something right now. Now listen to what this sounds like. I have to tell you something right now. We have to go to the room. Can we eat first? No. If I don't tell you this, I'm gonna die inside. You hear what that sounds like?
Yeah.
So we go up to the room. She's like, "What?" And I'm really struggling to tell her. And I laugh. We laugh at this now because it sounds like I'm gonna tell her I've been unfaithful.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking that, of course. I'm like, we're out of money. We're broke. Who knew that'd be the good news? That we're broke. But I just told her, I said we are completely out of money. And I told her, here's what happened, and this is what happened in the market. And I should have told you, and I violated your I just laid it on her. And she just grabbed me. Even now, it's hard for me. I feel the emotions rolling in. And she just held me and said, "Why have you carried this alone?" In my mind, I had created an irreparable failure that would cost me my marriage and my family. I didn't tame it. I fed it.
Okay.
And it got so big, it was completely consuming me. And in an instant, it went away. I had to deal with it.
Yeah.
But if I have her on my side, I'm convinced I can get through anything. And then I could go to, okay, what's the next step? I could frame it. I share this story because it's really important for all of us to understand that we can look back through our lives at many times. You have some of the best examples of moments where the world stood still and time stopped.
Yep.
Right? 4 times?
Yeah.
4 different diagnoses?
Correct.
Diagnoses?
Yep. Yeah. World stopped each time. So yeah.
And you have a perspective on what a real crisis is.
Sometimes. Yes, I do. Do my best.
Well, I think you've been an amazing example to me and to so many, so I want everyone to write this down. It's not a crisis till it's a crisis. If you can fix your problem by doubling your lead generation efforts, you don't have a trial. You have an assignment. And that's different. If you can fix your problem by writing a check, you don't have a trial. You have an expense.
I love that.
My experience is we are typically some clarity and the right few moves away from feeling wholly different.
Mm.
You know, and so I will send you that PDF.
Please.
And share it with this amazing group of people. And we left at least a minute and a half for Q&A.
About a minute. So if anybody's got something they'd like to share, questions, we can't see you up on the screen. So just come off mute and speak, and then Andrew will mute us in here so we don't get any reverb. So if someone's got something to share,
You
please
want me-
fire
we
away.
just gotta. While they're talking.
That was absolutely amazing. It was so phenomenal last night, and then to carry it over into this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire.
This dude right here.
I have a question on failure to communicate. You'd spoken about what we say and what is heard are two different things. How can we provide clarity to the other person in that conversation? And like, you know, in my mind, I hear, you know, read back the order. How can we, when we're talking with someone, reaffirm that what we said is what they heard? Do you have any advice on that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's such a great question. Ask them what you heard. You know, in coaching, right, we
Yeah.
talk about this a lot. In coaching, I'll say often, I can coach you here, tell you what I think, you know, and 100% of the time people are, tell me what you think.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I'll do that. Well, I think, well, I'll tell them. But then to ensure that we have the communication and to step back into coaching, I'll say, no, I just said a lot. What did you hear? You know, and so one of the things now in the relationships that, you know, there's a book called Starved Stuff by Matt Townsend. We should get him on this.
Mm.
He's one of my mentors. He's one of the best experts on communication, relationship communication specifically, you know, in the world today. But anyway, I would ask, I said a lot. What did you hear? I want to make sure you received what I'm saying and the intent behind it. Will you share with me what you heard? And explore their interpretation.
Love it.
Thank you
That help, Tommy?
very much. Thank you.
All right, we are at time, well, actually past time. So everybody go out, make it an amazing Thursday. Thank you so much for your time. Studio is phenomenal. If you haven't signed up
So
to talk
good.
to Andrew about getting in here to start working on your social media, your
You
video.
are nuts.
got
You
to-
are nuts
got
if you
to
don't
jump
do
in and
this.
do this.
There's only one thing for certain. It's not even the future of marketing. In today's marketing and in the future and going forward, and that is the critical role of video.
Yeah.
And I've been to market centers all over the country. You guys have something exceptionally special. My business is creating content. We can't touch this. So I got to talk to Andrew about moving to Utah. This is amazing. This is amazing.
Yeah, thanks. All right, guys, have a great day. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And I can't log us off, so I'm gonna let you guys do it.
You're good.
Okay.